to education officers, to collectors, to tehsildars. So revenue judgments will be made available to the revenue arm of the state. Judgments on criminal procedure will be available to the police academies, to the police officers. Judgments on education will be available to the education department. So look at the potential which we have today in terms of technology and a little bit of imagination if we apply it. I hope, therefore, that this initiative will bring us closer to our citizens. On the third point, which the Honorable Chief Minister justifiably made, that is inclusion as a principal factor for the appointment of judges, in the earlier collegium recommendations published by my 6-member collegium that I head, we have laid out the factors for consideration. And these factors for consideration include representation to members of the marginalized communities, including women and the backward communities, and to the best extent possible, representation to all the high courts. Because the Supreme Court, to my mind, is truly a Supreme Court which represents the nation. And we are making a conscious effort to ensure that different high courts, different regions of the nation, find representation in the Supreme Court. I next turn to the lawyer community assembled here. But before that, I must share a small anecdote. When we started live streaming of our court proceedings, a distinguished member of our bar, who is also a member of Parliament, Mr. P. Wilson, interacted with me. He's a member of the Parliamentary Standing Committee attached to the Department of Justice, which visited the Supreme Court last year and again 2 days back to interact with us on legal aid schemes. And the learned member of Parliament shared with me that by allowing hybrid hearings, hearing lawyers from across the country, you are truly becoming a court for the nation. So that a lawyer sitting in Chennai, or for that matter anywhere in the state of Tamil Nadu, or from Orissa or West Bengal or Kerala or Maharashtra or Madhya Pradesh or UP can address us as judges of the Supreme Court. Now I turn to the lawyers community. I like to highlight 3 issues. First, there is a need to enhance the entry-level pay for junior lawyers. I am told that the entry-level pay in Madurai for young law graduates is somewhere between rupees 5,000 to rupees 12,000 per month. Such poor pay disproportionately impacts members of the marginalized communities, such as the scheduled castes and the scheduled tribes, and women. The impact of this, or the impact of which, is that it takes the form of an entry-level barrier and forces young graduates to take up other work unrelated to their branch of study just to make ends meet. The law does not become a primary profession for young entrants because they don't make enough money in their chambers. The usual defense by recruiting chambers for such low pay is that the first few years of a young associate's career is a learning stage where the senior mentors them. I would request the senior members of the bar, please shed this paternalistic approach. Today's youngsters are sharp, hardworking, and hungry for work. Interact with them about their approach towards the law. I have 5 judicial clerks, all of them first-time lawyers with no connection in the legal profession in their families. One of them, a woman lawyer, is from Madurai. She comes from an agricultural family. But the benefit of women's education in the state of Tamil Nadu, she went to a national law school and now has come to work with a judge of the Supreme Court. Another sister has become a doctor and has gone abroad to pursue higher education. So that shows you the power of women's education. You will be spellbound by the fresh approach that young lawyers bring to the table. All I ask of senior lawyers is to trust the youngsters of the bar. We should all firstly understand that childbearing and child care is a choice, and women should not be punished for taking up that responsibility if they wish to, but rather encouraged and supported in any choices that they may choose to make. A young male lawyer might also choose to be equally involved in child care and family care. But as a society, we force the responsibility of family care only on the women and then use that very bias against women that we hold to deny them opportunities. If a woman wants to balance work with family care, it is our responsibility to provide institutional support. Setting up creche facilities in all court complexes across the country is an important step in that direction. The Supreme Court of India, the Delhi High Court have already led the way on this front, and it is time that the rest of the country follows suit. I request the Chief Justice of the Madras High Court to take steps on the administrative side in setting up creche facilities at the High Court and in all district courts. This would go a long way in improving the working conditions and providing substantive equal opportunity for women. The second bias that I would like to highlight is the stereotype that it is safer for male employers to not have women working in the office. Such stereotyping denies equal opportunity of recruitment to women. Beyond that, such stereotype also ridicules the innumerable stories of sexual harassment at the workplace. We must strive to constantly and consciously unlearn these biases. The third issue that I wish to brush upon is the necessity of a strong relationship between the bar and the bench. We are both stakeholders of the justice system, and there has to be a sense of trust and coordination in our functioning. When I was a young lawyer, I got my first brief in a land acquisition matter, but I didn't know how to argue a land acquisition appeal. I didn't know what a sale instance was. But we were groomed by judges. They encouraged us. They did not defeat our confidence by ridiculing us. So it's important that we spend a little patience with young lawyers. At the end of the day, doing 3 cases less may not be as important as creating the future of our society and the profession. By creating young leaders who will follow in our footprints, because I believe the true worth of a leader, and I don't speak of the leaders of the judiciary or the executive or the legislature, I speak about the leaders in the chambers of lawyers, the chambers of doctors. The true worth of a leader is to create a bunch of talented people who will take up the baton when it is time for you to pass it on to others. While it is natural for the bar to have issues with the functioning of the court administration, because of the less line spacing and small font, please use a larger font and increase the line spacing so that we don't have to pick up a magnifying glass. On a serious note, I have noticed that the judgments of various high courts, including your high court, and I'm not ridiculing the high court. Why would I do that? I owe everything to the high courts. The judgments of the Madras High Court are printed on a paper with an image of the High Court emblem, the watermark. More often, sentences on such prints are not screen readable, rendering it inaccessible to blind people. I had a blind lawyer who worked with me as a law clerk for a year. He was a Rhodes Scholar who came and worked with me for a year. And we have tried our best to make the judicial system more accessible to the visually handicapped, the blind. If we put watermarks on our judgments, how will young blind lawyers follow our judgments? So we have to change these practices. It would be great if the Chief Justice of the Madras High Court could look at this issue. I've been told that Madurai has a unique food culture. While I cannot wait to explore the rich cultural heritage of Madurai and the unique cuisine that it has to offer, I would like to issue a note of caution to the hardworking people of the temple town. I have noticed that societies with a rich cultural heritage are often unwilling to grow out of rustic social understandings. While we must all work towards preserving our culture, our heritage, and language, we must also work towards unlearning our social biases. Introspect on your understanding of how society functions. Ask yourself if your beliefs are rational and backed by reasoning. Open up your mind, your thoughts, and your expression. Learn and unlearn your beliefs based on the caste system, gender, disability, and sexual minorities. For it is only a rational society that would be remembered centuries later. I would like to end my speech by quoting from the Sangamira poet Thirukaniyan Pungundranar. His poem, Yadum Ure Yavarum Kelir, is widely quoted. I learnt of it as a child. But it is the last 4 lines of the poem, which I did not understand as a child, but which I understand now, that I consider to be meaningful and apt in today's world. And I quote those last 4 lines. Periyorai Viethalum Ilame Siriyorai Igarathal Adinilum Ilame. So I conclude with this thought that truly, the universe is one. The universe is truly one. While we do not have to necessarily always look up to people in positions of authority, we should also not mistreat our subordinates. So I leave you with this thought. I thought that I will use my visit to this beautiful temple town. I've spent my evening yesterday and this morning today reflecting, introspecting, meditating on the beauty of the religious and cultural heritage, which Madurai in that sense is so symbolic in the state of Tamil Nadu. But more than that, not as an outsider, in so many which ways I believe that my parent, which is the state of Maharashtra and Tamil Nadu, have so many common traditions. Every time I speak to my very dear and affectionate brother, Justice Sundar, or my dear and affectionate brother, Justice Ram, as I call them, I find that there is so much of commonality in the traditions, in the conventions, in our approaches to life. So when I spoke to you, I don't believe I spoke to you as an outsider, but I spoke to you as someone who shares this great vision, like you, of the very ethos of India. Namaskar. Thank you very much.